Hi, guys. Welcome to Journey and Wander, a podcast about people's goals, journeys, and basically what gets them out of the bed in the morning. This is episode number 1, and I think this is going to be kind of interesting. We've got basically how it's going to go down is I'm going to answer a series of questions about my motivations and what keeps me going. And then basically, I'll talk about somebody who influenced that, and I'm gonna talk to them, and then they're going to answer the same questions, and then talk basically just talk about somebody who influenced them, and then the next episode we'll have them on. So it's just gonna keep going right on down the line, and hopefully we'll create this big tree of people who've all influenced each other. So I'm excited to just basically get behind people's motivations. And, I feel like with all the COVID stuff and just everything getting crazy, it could have, I don't know, I feel like it might have put a damper on some people's motivation. And just in general, there's a lot of people who don't have a whole lot of motivation, don't have a goal. They just kind of like to be comfortable. And I don't know. I'm basically, just kind of breaking down what motivates people to just get out of the slump. And so if you're in the slump, if you're trying to get out of it, or if you're out of it and you want to, stay in it by taking a look at other people, I think this will be a great podcast for that. And we're hoping for the best. Brought to you by a decorative pot full of sticks. Are you a wine mom that needs to get out of the regular flow of the live, laugh, love signs? Get a decorative pot of sticks. It's a good alternative. And now I'm gonna start answering questions. So buckle up, and let's just take a quick second to thank Big Laugh Comedy for putting this on, and we'll check out their other stuff, and let's get to it. What's the first question here? What is your journey? My journey, I'd say, is to create an interesting enough perspective for myself to create something captivating. I think that allows me to do a lot of things, and it lets me express that goal in a lot of ways. Like I like to try new things, get that perspective, more interesting. It allows me to, learn, keep an open mind and learn different things. And like this podcast pretty much is for that purpose, to help me better understand people and, basically adjust my perspective by getting to know other people's. And the way that pays off is, I get to create cool things. I get to do this podcast, and I get to do comedy, and I've done a lot of different creative things, and this has been I think that's been something that just gets me up out of the bed in the morning, to just improve my perspective in hopes to be able to create something pretty cool. So I'd say let's go on to the next question here. What inspired my journey? So that basically, we've got, like, I was in a band in high school, and that made me really like performing, and how it felt to like put stuff out there, to create content, to perform in front of live audiences. And I don't know if that was, the chicken or the egg, if that's what created it, or if that was just another product of my motivation. I would say, what inspired my journey more realistically, probably some painful things. Probably, just various issues in childhood, I guess. I don't know. That, I feel like what inspired my journey is probably uh, a in the back of my head. It's probably a little bit of wanting to be liked, wanting to I don't know, wanting to be validated in a way, and I guess that results in it feeling really good when it works. It feels really good when you can create something that people enjoy. And as far as just bettering my perspective, I don't know, I've always thought of myself as a life learner, and I really enjoy just really, I don't know, I really enjoy learning. I really enjoy trying new things and just broadening my horizons. And that's always been something that I've been a fan of. And as far as where that comes from, I have no idea. I don't, maybe maybe that's one for the therapist to pick apart. But yeah, let's move on to the next question. How did I start my journey? Well, like I said, I started in the band, and that was something that just first sparked, that I guess that's the first footprints of, I guess, of what I am today. I would say also how I started, if I want to say how I started comedy, basically, I don't know, I was in person. I would like to make a lot of jokes. I don't know, I just like to, ever since middle school, I just like to be the funniest person in the group, or at least try to be. I always got insecure when people got more laughs than me or something. And so it gave me the drive to make people laugh. And I guess that just kind of expanded. And by the time that I went to college and getting to know different people, I realized that I probably could make groups of people laugh. And it was basically just like in the common areas of the dorm, I would just, tell stories or whatever. And I kind of just, the wheels started turning, and I thought, hey, maybe I could do this. And then I basically dropped out, not sure that I was going to do comedy yet. And then, just moved back into my mom's and everything, and I had to get a job at a pizza place, and just kind of unfulfilled, I guess. And I just decided to do something slightly more productive and try comedy. And basically, that I didn't want to do my first mic at at a comedy open mic. I didn't want to I didn't want to have a bad first impression with the comedy scene, even though now I realize that lots of people do, and they get better in the comedy scene, and it's not really a big deal. But I don't know. So I went to music open mics at first, and I'd go to music open mics and poetry open mics and just say my one-liners. And then I obviously, like my first show, I like my first open mic, I don't know. I obviously didn't do well, but you get like the one laugh, and maybe it wasn't even a big laugh, but I got one laugh, and that I just knew how to fixate on that, and was like, all right, let's expand this. At least there's something there. And I immediately just got hooked going to open mics and just trying to get more and more out of it. And then I started doing comedy open mics, and then and now here I am doing a podcast. Support the journey we have a Venmo at BL Comedy, where you can support our dreams, and I promise the money will go to that and not drugs. And the Cash App is at Big Laugh Comedy. And then and yeah, please support us, and we'll this will fund all the podcasts we have on this network, and would be a great help. Let's go on to the next question here. What are some notable obstacles in my journey, and how did I overcome them? Well, there's, I guess, a lot of obstacles, and I guess some I haven't overcome, and some I have. One of the, I guess, one of the biggest obstacles that I face is just lack of, lack of romantic validation, and that's, and basically that it's hard because without just never romantically connecting with somebody is hard, because it seems like something that everybody's able to do, and it just feels kind of I don't know, it feels like not being able to tie my shoes or something. And after a while, it starts to make you question your own sanity, and that's what makes me question my clarity when performing, and basically makes me question the way I can connect to the audience. And that, and I guess that's not something I've quite overcome yet, and that's kind of one of the biggest beasts. The other big beast is just depression and anxiety have been something I've dealt with a lot, and something I've learned to deal with a bit, but not, it's that's a beast that keeps on changing on you, and you got to learn new ways to take it. And I do pretty well with that. Although I have my rough times, but oftentimes I've been able to get over it. And I guess the way that affects my comedy is sometimes the depression just makes me undesired to, like, I don't have the desire to go out. I don't have the desire to do anything. It makes me uncreative, and the anxiety just makes my, I don't know, makes my brain too busy to want to do things as well, and it makes my brain too busy to focus on the things that I want to. And overcoming that, I don't know, it's taken a lot of therapy. It's taken, and I still haven't completely overcome it. I still have my occasional anxiety attack, and sometimes some weeks it feels chronic, some, and then I have my moments of clarity sometimes, which is where I usually get most things done. But yeah, I would say those are my biggest obstacles that I go through with my journey, and that what prevents me from wanting to learn and wanting to perform. So yeah, let's go on to the next question here. Just trying to go through all these quick so we can get on to our guest. Alrighty, so where am I in my journey now? Well, if we want to look at it from a perspective of my whole life, I definitely have a better understanding of things. And like I said, sometimes the depression and anxiety comes up, but I'm a lot better at dealing with that. I'm a lot better at dealing with my feelings. I feel like I've become a lot more mindful, and that's just helped me deal with a lot of my thoughts and emotions. And I would say that's a huge stepping stone in my journey. And and as far as comedy goes, I would say where I'm at now is a lot quicker than I thought I'd be. Let's see, I had my first open mic about 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And I got shows pretty quickly within my first couple of months. I was doing shows and I was doing 20 minutes. Within like my first 6 months, I was doing, 20 minutes pretty consistently. I started performing out of town within 10 months and started, going all over Oregon, up to Tacoma and Seattle. Um, and then let's see, this was like just 3 months after my first year. I got to open for Kyle Kinane, which was cool. Which was a big deal, because if you pulled me aside in my freshman year of high school and asked me who my favorite comedians were, I would have said Kyle Kinane and Patton Oswalt. So it was really cool getting to sit in the same room as him and talk to him and stuff, and get a legitimate compliment. That's one thing that just made me realize that I'm on the right path and I'm doing the right thing. And was just some good, ego fuel to have for to carry me through my dark times. And then let's see, at my 2-year mark, at my 2-year mark, I opened at the biggest venue in Bend, Oregon. I opened for Preacher Lawson at the Tower Theater, which is it's a 500 person theater, but it was my first theater, and it was pretty crazy. So, and then my last show before all of COVID happened back in March, I got to open for my guest here, shooting his first self-produced special down in Austin, where I got to meet some people, and this is what got me this show. So, all the dominoes fell way quicker than I thought they would. And I've been making a lot of progress, and, I'm very grateful, because a lot of people doing comedy for a little over 2 years don't make this kind of progress. And that's been something that I've been very grateful for, and just caught me by complete surprise. And so I'd say, that's where I'm at on my journey so far. So what's our next one here? All right. Who is someone I'm grateful for being in my journey? Well, I talked about him. I opened for him in Austin. His name is Cody Parr. He basically, how I met him was there were some. I was doing some comedy open mics at this country bar, and he came by one time. I just hadn't heard of him as that he had produced some shows, that he was a comedian. Had spent some time doing comedy in LA and whatever. So, for my small town mind, I thought, oh wow, he performed in LA. Well, I felt pretty intimidated, and one time he came in, I saw him, and he saw me, and then perform. And then I qualified for this open mic competition or whatever, and he was one of the judges in the finals. And I remember all the judges had the scorecards and wrote down like our number score on different categories, and then they had some notes. And I remember going around asking people which one was his handwriting, because that was the only one I cared about. And then he asked me to do some shows, and I started performing on his shows, and we got along pretty well. Then we did a competition out in Tacoma together with our friend Ben Moore, and that was a lot of fun. And then we've been working with each other a lot. I've been on his podcast. He's he's on the Hold My Beer podcast, and he owns Beer Town Comedy, which is a production company here in Bend, and also created the website shopbeertown.com, where he sells my t-shirts, which was really cool. He he gave me a way to sell merch, and because if he didn't, I wouldn't have done it on my own. So it's really cool, and it's been surprising how many people have been buying them. So that's been neat.
Hey, Stress, how's it going? I'm doing all right. What are you trying to do? I was actually hoping that I could get some work done without feeling so stressed out. I mean, that's kind of my whole MO. I mean, that's what I do, though. Yeah, totally. I mean, I get that. That's a good point. I'm sorry I asked. Hey, depression, real quick. Do you think I could maybe get out of bed before 11 tomorrow? It's wild that you think that you're gonna get out of bed tomorrow morning at all. Hey, has anyone seen Hangover? I think he's in the bathroom. Everybody could just not make any loud noises for the next 7 hours. That would be so tight. Yo, full disclosure, you might have texted your ex-girlfriend some weird stuff, so you're probably gonna have to deal with that later. Okay. If you're feeling stressed or wound up, or you just want to feel better overall, then try Elevate. Alright guys, I'm using Elevate now and I feel a lot better, so you guys gotta go. Go, get out of here. Leave!
But can we talk about this?
I don't want to hear it, dude. Just go! Man, whatever. I'm just gonna go next door, man. Forget you guys. Hey, Karen, what's up? Visit amahealing.co/elevate and use code PLC at checkout to get 15% off all products.
But yeah, he's the runner of all that, of shopbeertown.com, of Beertown Comedy, on the Hold My Beer podcast, comedian, musician, actor. Please welcome Cody Parr.
How's it going, Cole?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing really good. That was a really good ego boost for me. That was a hell of an intro for me. So thanks for that.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, I'd say you gave me any cool gig I got was because of you. Like, I remember the Kyle Kinane one. I was emailing the guy and trying to get on the show, and he was like, "Oh, sorry, we picked some other guy. Maybe you could be on the next one." And then right after I read that email, like right as I'm putting my phone to sleep, I get a call from you and I answer it. He goes, "Hey, I got picked to do the Kyle Kinane show and I get to pick 2 people." And I was like, "Oh, sweet." And I got on. And anyways,
Yep.
So yeah,
it was a no-brainer for me for that show.
Thanks, man. That was a good time.
That was such an amazing night, amazing event. The whole thing. The producer, it was kind of dabbling in comedy at the time, so he didn't really have a feel or a grasp for the local comedians or anybody that was available in the area.
And it was a standing room show.
Oh yeah, it was
a 2-hour plus show.
2-hour plus show, standing room only. Everyone, no one left when they found out there was no seating. They're like, "Nope, we're here." And then they packed in even more people. It was such an awesome night. But when he gave me full reign, he's like, "You're a producer here in town. You know who's who and what's what. So I'm going to leave it up to you to pick 2 people." And for me, it was a no-brainer to pick you and
thank you,
Steve Harbor. So I thought there was a good contrast. Everyone had a different style of comedy, so no one was actually going to be stepping on each other's toes. So it was amazing. Yeah. I was so happy to be on stage with you, man.
Yeah, I was too. Steve Harbor is another great Bend comedian. Did you want to plug any of your stuff in a better way than I did? You probably have more info on your podcast and your website and whatnot.
No, you did a really good job. You can find the Hold My Beer podcast on all streaming platforms that are available. Just search for Hold My Beer. You'll see my ugly mug and my buddy and co-host Grant Lucas on there. I got shopbeertown.com, where I created a merchandise line for my comedy company, Beertown Comedy, which you had mentioned before. And yeah, you can get all of Cole's amazingly unique merchandise, t-shirts and stuff like that on shopbeertown.com. So you plugged it pretty good. So I appreciate it.
Sweet. Yeah. And I appreciate you selling my stuff on there. That's cool. So yeah, let's jump right into it. Let's start with the first question here.
First question.
So let's see, that should pop up here. All right, Cody, what's your journey? What is your quest? What gets you up out of bed in the morning? What is the, in a general sense, is the description of your existence?
What is my journey? What gets me up in the morning? A big part of it is the question that I get often is, what is your biggest fear? It's also my biggest motivator for life, which is my biggest fear is not reaching my full potential. And so every single day, I do everything I possibly can to position myself to be better and reach and get as close as I can to reaching my full potential, knowing that I'll never, ever fully reach it. But if I can do it with things that I'm passionate about and things that I love to do with people that I love to do it with, I think that is what motivates me every single day. So I have chosen comedy. I have chosen entertainment all around. So like you mentioned, I do write hip hop and perform hip hop music. I do stand up comedy. I'm an actor. I produce shows, web series, films, television shows, television pilots, excuse me, and do comedy. So for me, being able to share my passions with the world gets me closer and closer to reaching my full potential of allowing myself to inspire other people by inspiring myself. It was never my intention when I started out in entertainment to actually inspire anybody else, because I didn't even think of it from that perspective. It was just, how can I be better? How can I become better? And I felt like the only thing that I could completely control all the time was myself. So through entertainment, throwing everything I had into it, it just so happened to kind of bleed out. And so the story I was sharing with people through my comedy, through my music, through acting, connected with other people, and it inspired them in some way, shape, or form, whether it be really big or really small or somewhere in between. That really kind of put gas on my tiny little spark in the entertainment world. So
Right. That's a really interesting way of putting it, is, trying to reach your full potential. Because I feel like, I don't know if are you religious or not?
not really. I mean, I grew up with Catholic grandmother, and like that whole side of my family, half of my family is Hispanic. So there's more like a Catholic Christian type of thing. And the other half of my family is kind of like the white redneck. So there's a lot of Christianity.
Right.
But neither side was overly religious. There was, God was
Church
in the
on
house.
Easter.
Yeah. God was
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
house, and we would dress
That's
up.
yeah. That's how I grew up, except for I went to a Christian school like for 6th and 7th grade, which
Oh,
explains
really?
a lot. But pretty much, why I bring up religion is because I feel like, people who grew up with religion and then realized that none of it was real, or, who knows, maybe. But I feel like you have this realization, especially when you do a lot of psychedelics, that how little life means. And that's one of the inspirations for the show, is when we realize that we're dead, we're alive for a split second compared to eternity, and then we're just dead for an even longer amount of time. We have to come up with a way to justify our time being here, I feel like.
Right.
And reaching your full potential is a really, I don't know, I feel like that's a good one, because oftentimes I feel like, okay, we have this little amount of time, let's make the biggest splash we can
Yeah,
in a positive way.
absolutely.
Because even our legacy isn't going to last forever, but just what can we do here in the moment, in the time that we have? And to me, reaching your full potential is a really good, that's a good goal.
Yeah, because for me, that type of thing, reaching your potential, I feel like as you grow, it grows with you. It evolves into something else. So like I said, at that point in time, I was just doing something that I love to do because it helped me heal. It helped me express myself. It helped keep me away from bad things and bad people for the most part. And as I put it out there for the world to hear and for the world to see and to criticize, I got a really positive reaction back. It seemed to help a lot of people. So when I realized that, I was like, oh, me being vulnerable on a musical side, me being vulnerable on a comedic side, which kind of one was lighter and one was darker, where I was really serious with the music and really heartfelt. And then I would use the comedy to take all that darkness and kind of lighten it up and make fun of what I was doing and what I was going through. And so I could reach people on two different levels. So once I absorbed all that, my potential for me evolved into, wow, the more vulnerable that I am, the more self-aware that I become, the more I'm able to help people through this medium, which was entertainment. So
yeah,
that was huge for me.
it's really interesting how you talk about raising your potential, because I feel like a lot of times we're competing with ourselves. Like, well, there is a really good line in the newest Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man Far From Home, which I think is the best Spider-Man movie, where he's sad that Tony Stark is dead, and Peter Parker says, "I don't think I could live up to him." And Tony Stark sits and goes, nobody can live up to Tony. Tony couldn't even live up to himself. And I felt that really hard because I feel like we often have like these flow state moments where we'll be on stage and we'll do way better than we are capable of without doing it on accident, I guess.
Right.
And then your mission is to do that, to be able to repeat that over and over again. And then you learn to repeat that. And then you have another accidental, amazing show that you're constantly trying to live up to. And so I feel like I always ask, whenever I meet a new artist, I always ask them, like, do you feel like each piece you do is better and better? And if they say yes, you kind of know their work. I feel like their work isn't coming from the heart if they say yes, each piece they do is better than the last. I feel like there's those kind of results, I feel like, come from very mathematical artists, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. I think getting to know the logistics behind your art and then is really good, and it allows you to consistently get better and better. But I feel like it doesn't hit you in as an emotional way. Like some of the best songs that hit you most emotionally aren't exactly like, sound a bit off, like musically, and don't, I guess that's why jazz is so popular, or became so popular, is because it's not following the rules. It's doing what they feel like doing.
In the moment, present, full heart, full soul coming out. It's like the conscious and subconscious mind are like working together in that moment, and you're so present in that moment that you can't even consciously register how good that it's doing. Like you said, the flow state, you're just in it and it's happening whether you like it or not. It's
the other word I like, I've also heard it called the forever box.
What?
The forever box, when you're like when you're feeling it, everybody's feeling you, you're killing it, and you know exactly what's going to hit and what exactly isn't going to hit, and where to put things. And it, because it feels like time isn't going as fast. I don't know. But we should get on to our next question here, because it looks like we can talk for quite a while. So what's the next question here? What inspired your journey?
What inspired my journey? There's a lot of beauty in this answer if you really look at it deeply, but the death of my two best friends in the entire world when I was in high school. 15 years old, going into these pre-SATs, thinking about college, what I wanted to do with my life. I came from a very conservative family, so it was kind of just go to college, get a great paying job, have a family at 23, 24, 25, and then work that job till you're 65, 70, and then retire. Like that was the plan. That's what I was told to do.
Sounds like you failed.
I'm failing horribly. So happy about it.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. I definitely went through the same thing.
But it was from a place of love. It was nowhere ill will where I was being advised to do that. That was out of love. That's what everybody in my family knew. That's all they knew. And they just wanted me to be happy. And, they wanted to build our family bigger and bigger. So the death of my friends at 15 and then my next best friend at 16, like literally back to back, these two guys had my heart, had everything. We grew up our whole childhood together. It was devastating to me that I developed PTSD because of the trauma of the loss so quickly. And I was 15 and 16 years old. So I was an adolescent. I was growing into my body, a lot of chemical changes. So that really affected who I was. And I was in a counseling group at one time, and I was listening to another girl talk about some loss that she had. And something just clicked with me, and she was talking about the loss of her best friend. And I asked the question to her. I said, if she could come back for another chance, if God allowed her another chance at this life, what do you think she would do? And I had to actually reflect back on myself, because I was like, wow, if my best friends got the chance to come back, would they continue on the path they were told to be on, or would they do something else that they always dreamed of? Because we always talked about, one of my friends wanted to be an architect and the other one wanted to be a professional skateboarder. And both of them had potential to reach that and be great at both of those things. So for me, that shifted my gear. I thought differently. I started to plan differently and plot. I was like, if I ever get the chance, I'm absolutely taking it. So that was a huge and probably the biggest inspiration in my life that turned me from the traditional page that everybody in my family had been on to a new one that no one had seen before. So,
wow, that's really interesting, because I definitely had went through the same thing of, I went to college for a bit just expecting to get a whatever job, and a socially acceptable job, and then and decided not to, and I never looked at it that way, that if I had the experience of dying and then I came back, would I do the same thing? And I think yes, because I saw a spider the other day and I thought I was done for. And here I am.
here, doing the same thing,
Yeah.
but evolving, growing.
Yes, exactly. So, but no, that, I would say that that's definitely reason to, that's a superhero origin story. You should be killing people right now.
Maybe send that spider my way. Things might change for me.
Yeah, in the name of justice.
Yeah, there you go.
But so let's get on to the next question.
You got it.
How did you start your journey? So that we just discussed what inspired it. What because you get the wheels turning in your head. Mm-hmm. And what was like the first thing? And one thing, like I guess like when I found that I love comedy or whatever, like it took me a while to start actually like doing it. After I found out like this is what I want to do, it took me a while to start it. There's something between those two things happening that has to go on, I feel like. So how did you go from those tragic experiences to actually starting? Because there had to be some time between you asking yourself that deep question after asking that girl that question, between that and when you actually, got going.
The trigger and did something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it was in high school again, but 14. So the year before all that stuff actually happened, my freshman year of high school, they have it was a brand new high school. We have like a Mr. High School pageant, and we were the Summit Storm. So it was called the Mr. Thunder pageant. So it was basically a guy's beauty pageant, but we used it as a fundraiser, and the entire school had to nominate 10 seniors in their senior year to perform in this little fundraising competition event. So my freshman year, a good friend of mine, Erica, she sat right next to me one morning. All the signs went up for the Mr. Thunder pageant, and she said, "You're so funny. If you ever get nominated for the Mr. Thunder pageant, you have to do comedy as your talent portion." And at that point in time, I had never done comedy. I just always lived with funny uncles, funny parents, funny grandparents. Everybody in the house told jokes, roasted each other. Like it was just that kind of environment. All my friends, we were the same way. So she dared me. She's like, "You have to promise me." I said, yeah, I promise. That will never happen. I'll never get nominated. No one likes me here. Like, this is not happening. My friends die at 15 and 16. My perspective changes. Senior year comes and I get nominated. And I keep my word to Erica because you know what? Why not? I could die tomorrow, so I'm doing this. I accept the nomination. I stay true to my word, and I'm going to do stand-up comedy in front of 800 people for 11 minutes, my very first time. That was nerve-wracking.
Oh yeah, 11. I think I did like 2 or 3 minutes my first time.
Yeah, to anybody that's a comedian starting out, like 2 to 3 minutes, your first few times seems like an eternity on stage, especially when like, oh God, I can't remember everything. So 11.
Yeah, and that's like a full theater because Summit has a pretty nice Summit High School has a pretty nice amphitheater, or not an amphitheater, but auditorium theater. Something that starts with an A and equals theater. So you're in front of a whole auditorium, and like I feel like it's added pressure that it's a school. Like you're gonna see these people again. You know, like you're gonna see them at lunchtime and stuff.
Oh yeah, well that was the thing too, is that I was the assemblies coordinator. I didn't even get voted in for student council. Somebody that was on student council at the time wasn't doing a very good job. They came to me, asked me to do it. And so I would bring like a little comedic edge and a little comedic attitude to every single assembly that we had. And so everyone in the school kind of knew that I had this comedic tone to myself, and I didn't really take myself too seriously on the surface that everyone saw. So when I went up on stage, I did feel this level of expectation, like, oh, he's the funny guy. Everybody knows him. He better be funny. But being in a situation where it's just like hanging out and being funny is completely different when it's completely silent. A crowd's in front of you, no noise, just a light and a microphone, and all eyes and attention are on you. Like, hey, make me laugh. Totally different.
Right. And I mean, it's interesting that you had like that people knew you as the funny guy, because I mean I was very quiet in high school. I barely talked to anybody. But there were a few people, like I had like you were pop comedy. I had like a cult following where it's just like maybe a few select people were like, oh, Cole's hilarious, but the other people never saw it because I just wasn't comfortable opening up.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because my first performance, not a comedy performance, but my first band performance was at a high school assembly. It was the homecoming assembly, and we played "Sharp Dressed Man" by ZZ Top, and
Nice.
And I definitely, because people didn't know me at all, so it was weird going from that to just walking through the halls and you're like, oh my God, they all know who I am.
Yep.
Or, it's nerve-wracking. It was nerve-wracking to me.
Yep.
So,
that sparked a lot of stuff, because once I got off stage, I killed it. I had to actually write 6 different 11-minute sets. So I wrote 66 minutes of material within just a few weeks, because the student body or president or the board, school board, something like that, it had to be approved by faculty. And apparently my stuff was a little too inappropriate for a family-friendly high school audience of all ages. So it got down to the 5th one, and they're like, all right, you need to cut this out and you need to write a whole new one. So the day of the show,
I just wanted to say to the audience, if that seems unbelievable, believe me, I've seen him do it before. It's crazy. I can't believe you were already doing it in high school, like that amount of writing, but you can write. You have this amazing ability of being able to write killer bits without ever performing them, and you go up and they just do as well as you expected. Me, I gotta say a joke, and then I go, oh, I know that has potential, I'll reword it and figure something else out. And it seems like you've always had a clear idea of what will work, and that has given you a great ability to write very quickly.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. There is this level of improv that I have put to the creative process of building these bits and things like that, because when I was in LA doing comedy, that wasn't the case. I was so serious about it because it was LA. It was like one of the comedy capitals of the entire world. There were so many comedy clubs there and so many options that I felt like I had to be flawless. I had to be perfect. So every single word, every syllable, every beat, every step on stage had to be like calculated and rehearsed and practiced. And it just wasn't me. It seemed very robotic and scripted. It wasn't like somebody was naturally up there just having a good time. So towards the end of my stay in LA, I started to care a little bit less because I was being judged a little bit more. And it came out on stage and it flowed better. It was just easier. I stopped writing things as much and just came up with kind of topics that I thought were funny between me and somebody else having a conversation. And I'd kind of play with it in a real life situation and then bring it to the stage and just talk about it on stage. And it wasn't ever written down until after I told the joke. I'm like, that story or that joke got a laugh. I'm writing it down. And I just kind of worked it like that. Picked up what worked along the way, put it all down on paper, and then looked at it like, all right, what do I have to paint with? Put it in an order that kind of flowed, and then would go up there and perform it that way, and it would crush. And so I was loving that, and then I left LA.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting. The less you care, the better you do, because I've noticed the shows where I tell myself, like, I'm going to bomb, I just have to get a bomb out of the way. Sometimes you're just in those moods, you know, where you're just like, I got to get a bomb out of the way. I got to, you know, and you got to, you know, ask to go first in the worst venue in town and just get a solid bomb out of the way. And sometimes those are the ones that you actually do the best because you aren't even trying. You're just going, whatever. And I feel like the improv just comes more naturally, and just your delivery, people pick up on it. And I don't know, it's interesting how that works.
The art form is very interesting. When we did the Kyle Kinane show, I was having such a good run up until that Kyle Kinane show. Like, I opened up for Matt Bronger at the Domino Room, and then I went to Las Vegas and performed at the LA Comedy Club at the Stratosphere Hotel on the Strip in Vegas. Then I came back and I opened up for Steve Byrne at the Domino Room, who's a really, really big name in comedy. He had his own sitcom for like 3 or 4 seasons, Sullivan and Son on TBS. And I absolutely bombed horribly, like fell flat on my face, 22 minutes straight. It was like trying to squeeze a laugh out of somebody. And for some reason, I couldn't do it. The Kyle Kinane show was the next day. I went up there and did the exact same set, and it murdered. It did so well. And I was like, this is such a crazy art form. It's like you can literally be in one stage on one side of town, go to another one on the other, and get 2 completely different reactions. And it confuses you.
And I feel like the real comedian superpower because people think, comedians, they're comedians because they're funny. And I feel like comedians are often comedians because the funny is kind of a second thing. The first thing is knowing how to feel out the vibes of a room.
Yes.
And being able to know what they need. And of course, the funny is, just goes with that. But everybody always just assumes funny and doesn't assume, they know how to feel this group out. I mean, look at even professional comedians when COVID happened and they had to start performing in front of no audiences, all these late night guys. Like, they went on the first week and everything bombed. It was super awkward. Like, it was just like, this isn't funny because they didn't have an audience to feel out. But then eventually, I don't know if they rewatched themselves or whatnot, but they eventually knew that they needed to pick up the pace and just get a bit more punchier. And it seemed to work better without, when there's no audience there. Because, you see that. Because, you're looking at these funny people who now have no audience to feel out and still have to be funny. Absolutely. And, who are used to having an audience. A lot of people do podcasts and are very funny on them,
I remember when we went to Tacoma and Seattle, I remember looking at you and looking at Ben, and I said, this room is going to be a testament to how funny your comedy actually is received to an all-around crowd. Because being in Bend and performing for a kind of millennial to middle-aged white conservative crowd predominantly, going to Seattle, Tacoma, which are much bigger cities, completely different demographic, we performed for 95% elderly Black audience. And I was you're really going to see what you're made of today and what we're all made of today, how we adjust, how we adapt, because we were able to sit and watch the comedians go up there and tell their humor. And then we were able to see the people that were feeling out the room and connecting with the room. So I remember looking over at you and telling you, oh my gosh, I'm going to talk about my grandma. I'm going to talk about elderly people. I'm going to talk about older people.
Yeah.
And it killed. I felt so good coming off that stage after doing that. But if I hadn't had the experiences that I had prior to that, I would have just stuck to what I had written down. I would have stuck to like what I had always done in Bend. And without that all around experience, I would have never adapted and changed. So.
Right. And I haven't had a similar audience to that. I didn't have an audience to that before or since that, not only in race, but especially in age. In the age, I feel like
the race wasn't so much a thing. It was more the age thing that I was like, all right, these are 65 and up. 90% of these people here are 65 and older.
Right,
they have been through some shit that the people in Bend, Oregon that we normally talk to have never even thought of.
Exactly. And then like, you know, they're not I feel like with older people, it's not like, I wouldn't say you have to be, I don't know. It's interesting because I remember thinking, because like, you know, I guess my comedy doing one-liners, cheesy one-liners, sometimes like it can get like, you know, people are like, wait, what? Like with the older audience, I like, and that's one thing I like about competitions is you get to see a lot of people go up and how their stuff does and what their stuff is and how that does on the audience. And by the time I got to go up, I kind of like realized like, okay, I'm going to have to not make these jokes like they're actual jokes. I'm going to have to make it really meta and, you know, like really acknowledge that these are bad jokes. And it seemed to go over a lot better. And, you know, like you get that in competitions, like, and I've had competitions where you go there and after like 3 comedians, I go, oh, this is not my night. This is not my audience. I know exactly how this is going to go down. I'm going to try everything I can to not make it that way, but I know exactly what's going to happen and it's not good. And, you know, sometimes like, but yeah, so, but let's get on to the next question. I don't know where we're at on time, but, I think we need to support the journey. If you want to support our guests, you want to support the comedians on this network, please support the journey. Our Venmo is at BL Comedy. That is BL Comedy. That is our Venmo. And then our Cash App is $ Big Laugh Comedy. That's what the BL in our Venmo stands for if you're curious. It's $, Big Laugh Comedy. All proceeds go to our comedians and the producers of the shows, the techs. It keeps the show running, keeps all the shows on this network running. So even if you don't like this one and like the others, please donate. Again, that's Venmo at BL Comedy and Cash App at $ Big Laugh Comedy. Moving along here. Okay, so I think we could spend a lot of time on this. What are some notable obstacles in your journey and how did you overcome them? So we discussed that you had a couple of friends pass away at an early age. But after you actually hit your goal, when you started doing what you told yourself, what is an obstacle that hit you and maybe one that you didn't know would be there or didn't expect?
Being in LA, when I moved there, I went with absolutely zero knowledge. I had zero connections, no idea what the industry of entertainment and Hollywood was like, because my goal was to be a film actor. I wanted to be on television and film and movies. And at the time, web series weren't even a thing yet. So my obstacles that I ran into while I was there was not enough stage time as a musician or a comedian, not enough auditions as an actor, and not enough money. So what I walked into was a business opportunity. I was a business, but I did not know I was a business. So
Right.
I was just going into this so naive, and I was like, I'm just going to get discovered, just like all these American Idol shows. Someone's going to see me and recommend I go here and meet this person. And I
Yeah,
secretly,
yeah.
it got so hard. I just really hoped to get hit by a car by like Steven Spielberg and be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And be like, oh, just let me in one of your movies and we can forget about this. Like
Right.
that's how difficult it was. And so something I did to overcome that was I took matters into my own hands. After a certain point in time, I'm like, I'm going to start my own businesses. I'm going to partner with the people that are doing what I'm doing. I'm going to network with the correct people. I'm going to bring people together to give myself more opportunities to just be on stage, more opportunities for auditions by hearing from that person doing this thing and things like that. And I started writing my own web series. I started writing my own music and putting it out on the internet. I just stopped asking for people to give me opportunities, and I started creating them on my own. So I wanted more comedic roles because I had never done a comedic role on film. So I wrote a comedic web series that went on, and it went viral. And we actually got potential offers and meetings with Funny or Die and Marlon Wayans' company at the time, his digital network called What the Funny, for our web series that I co-created and co-wrote with four other guys called Apartment
See, you should have
213.
put it on Big Laugh Comedy, and it would be a success like this show.
I have no doubts about it. This network's doing amazing things, and I'm absolutely loving what they're doing. So
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
happy to be a part of it. But
Right. But anyway, but I just wanted to actually touch on the fact that you said you weren't getting enough stage time in LA. And I think that's funny because a lot of comics from bigger towns assume us Bend comics don't get as much stage time as them, or just don't get enough stage time to practice. And that's one thing I gotta say, nope.
yes, they're
'Cause,
so
like,
wrong.
yeah, because people in bigger cities can go up 2 times a night, 5 to 7 nights a week. Like they could go up 2, 3, 4 times a night, 5 to 7 nights a week, but they're all like 3-minute open mics.
Yep.
In Bend, it's like our open mics are 5 to 10 minutes long, and so and then you have when before COVID happened, we had 3 comedy open mics going that were all 5 minutes long, and then you have all the music open mics, which were all welcome to comedy, that you can do 10 to there's a one at Monday nights at Astro, lets you go on
Yep.
for as long as you want. They just
Yep.
have a mic and they say go, and you can and then we start here in Bend, we get 20-minute sets really early on. And I was getting 20-minute sets well before I was ready for one. But that's what made me grow into it. And I spent some time in Portland doing the 3-minute mics, and I just felt zero growth. Because I feel like when you have more time than you have,
Well, it's a bloodbath. It's a bloodbath in those places too, because everybody's out to get everybody else. So what I was discovering was that I was going to these open mics praying to get 3 minutes, praying to get 5 minutes, but you were only performing in front of other comedians that did not accept that you were probably funnier than them. No one would laugh, so you'd never get an actual reaction. So the difference was when I came back to Bend, I was performing in front of an audience, a crowd. They knew the open mic.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. We have audiences at open mics that are not open micers. You get a crowd. You get an audience that is there to watch comedy on open mics.
It's
and
so
that
unique.
huge.
It's so special. I think my very first paying gig in LA was, like I said, after I kind of stopped caring so much about the stage time. I got paid $20 plus a drink ticket and an appetizer to host a show in Reseda, an open mic in Reseda. And it was terrible. I spent the whole $20 on whiskey. So that was gone in 20 minutes. I had a drink ticket and I left with nothing. And I was like, God, this is what I've been battling 4 years to do this. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And then I come back to Bend. I didn't do comedy for 2 years when I came back. I was seen at a bar because some of the comedians knew who I was and saw my YouTube show and knew that I was in town. approached my table and was like, "Are you Cody?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, "Oh my gosh, we'd love to have you come do comedy." They paid me $75 for 20 minutes. That was my very first show in Bend, Oregon. I had never stepped foot on a stage ever, but just they knew who I was. And I was like, in LA, I'm absolutely nothing. I am dog shit to everyone. I got up on stage. There was like 120 people in that crowd that night. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe all these people came out to see stupid comedy. It was amazing.
See, that's the thing is like, we have in the summers, of course, we have big bands come through, but not like every night. Like, that's the thing. Local comedy is a hot ticket here, which feels really cool because everywhere else people go, oh, a local comedy show. I guess the comedians are going to try to get their friends out. And I don't know how it is. I don't want to bash on all big city because there are good environments. But like, there are some definitely toxic environments and then some just like low energy environments where the audiences aren't, hot. And like here, I don't know, like, especially when we do shows at like 10 Barrel, where it's like that venue sells itself. And that's like 100 to a 200 person room, depending on how they do the seats. And it sells out like every single time. And that's not a weird thing. And like, and it's really cool that Bend is a great place to do that at. But so wait, let's get back onto your obstacles, I guess, and how you overcame them. So you obviously had a hard time with the big scene in LA and the toxicity there and the, not enough stage time and whatnot. And then coming back to Bend kind of soothe that out. And it definitely lets you stretch your creative legs a bit.
Oh, this is like the best comedy incubator you could ever ask for.
Oh yeah. But what else? What other obstacles do you think are pretty notable in your?
The biggest one was money for me. The biggest one. It wasn't just the stage time. It wasn't just the auditions. It was the money, because everything is ran by money. So if you don't have enough of it, you're going to flounder. You're going to flop, you're going to struggle and all that stuff. So I recognized that. I invested what little money that I did have into businesses that I thought would be lucrative, that would grow. But going through trial and error, different business types, doing consulting. I owned a catering company. I was part owner of an entertainment studio right before I left. It was, I was finding partners where I was weak. And what I should have done was stack cash and stack money and hired people where I was weak, because where I saw the weakness in myself was there were too many chefs in the kitchen trying to make the final call on what was going to go out for dinner that night. And it just, everyone always ripped each other apart. And then everyone had their own personal issues. So some businesses just dissolved, some businesses disbanded. And some of them I just chose, you know what, I didn't want to be a part of it anymore, even though it was my dream. It was the hardest decision I've ever had to do, but I dropped every single thing that I had built in LA, and every single person and relationship that I had there. I left for Christmas break. My lease was up on an apartment that I was renting from a friend of mine that I was a business partner with. And I came back, and I had the intention of going back to LA, but the more I stayed here, the more I recognized, you know what, that may not be the place for me right now. I don't have the money. I don't have this. I don't have it in me. And I fell into a really deep depression. And I was like, you know what? I might go back. I might not, but it won't be without a lot of money in my pocket and consistently coming in, because that is where I failed. I didn't treat myself as an entertainer as a business. So I felt if I was going to do it, that was going to have to be what it was. When I came back to Bend, I saw an empty market for entertainment. And I was like, there's so much potential to build from the ground up something that doesn't exist here yet. So that was where I started to shift my gears from going back to LA to going, I can take everything that I did in LA and put it here in Bend and make it my own. So
nice. All right. So yeah, I think that's a good answer. Let's go on to the next question. Alrighty, so yeah, where are you now in your journey? In retrospect to all the other stuff you said, like, if this were a movie and if your life were a movie and the ending is right now, what would be like the conclusions you've reached?
The conclusions I've reached is there is always a positive return on your investment when you invest in yourself. All the time, always trying to treat yourself like a student of life, always putting knowledge in your cup. So always putting positivity in your cup. So when life shakes you up, anything that spills out is going to be positive on everybody. And you have these vices that you can kind of fall back on, and where you might fail yourself, your environment won't. So positioning myself in a positive, healthy environment with positive, healthy people has been something that I have been actively seeking out in my circle of people. And that includes you. And I'm very grateful that you've been a part of my circle. So where I'm at right now is my environment is good. My people are good. So now it's time to focus on the business part of it. The conclusion I've come up with, again, is the same thing, is not just building a platform for myself and creating a section of industry in entertainment here for just myself, but allowing others to thrive on that platform that I am slowly trying to build. One of the steps was allowing other comedians in this area to sell merchandise on my website, because I didn't see anybody doing that. And I knew we could all be making money from our homes if somebody just allowed us to sell merchandise in a way that we could simply understand it. And so that's what I wanted to do. Building up my personal businesses. I have a marketing company that I do on the side that I am getting back into. Building my comedy company from a different perspective, which is why I started the merchandise line. And trying to raise money through those avenues to film a television show that I wrote called Beer Town. I am going to be shooting a television pilot for that. And I have concluded that it is a lot harder to do it on your own. I mean, you can travel fast when you're alone, but you go farther with others. So I think that creating a space for myself to allow as many people with the same mission as me to be on board is something that I value greatly, and that is going to be the biggest asset in my life. So that's probably been the biggest conclusion that I've taken away from everything so far.
That's why I didn't help you with the website. I need you to exercise your willpower, Cody Parr.
I appreciate it. Appreciate
it. All right. Yeah, let's go on to the next question, because I think it's one that we could talk a while about.
Yeah.
So who is somebody you're grateful for being in your journey?
Someone I am grateful for is the one and only Carter Anderson, comedian Carter Anderson. He now lives in Austin, Texas, but I actually met him in McMinnville, Oregon. We were performing together, or competing against each other, in the Western Oregon comedy competition. I was in Bend, he was from Portland, and I was doing tons and tons and tons of weekly competitions in Central Oregon. And I was crushing it. I was on a roll. I was just killing it. I was like, I want to see more of Oregon. I want to see more comedians. I want to get into a different area. So I had performed at Helium Comedy Club in Portland once before. And I heard about this competition, submitted for it, got accepted, went to McMinnville, and Carter and I competed in 3 different rounds, 3 different months. And we actually made it to the finals, the final 3, where him, myself, and another comedian from Portland were competing against each other. And I ended up winning that competition. But I was so struck by Carter's presence on stage. He has a unique perspective, and his style of comedy was so funny. And I love the take that he has on life. He's the nerdy black guy, and it was just like something I hadn't really seen a whole lot of. So I was like, wow, that's really unique. The guy stands out. His stage presence is incredible. He's a good looking guy. He's very, very likable. He had every quality that I would want in somebody that I would want on my team or my environment. And I'm like, wow, I produce shows. I got to see if this guy will come, if he's not too mad about the competition right now. So
yeah.
We got off stage. We gave each other a lot of respect. And I asked him, I was like, man, I would love to have you come headline one of my shows. I think you are hilarious. And regardless of what happened here today, I hope we stay friends for a long time, because dude, you're awesome. So he accepted, came to Bend, performed. He absolutely killed it. He brought an opener with him, Trista Tyree, who performed as well in the competition earlier rounds, and she was great. And we have been friends ever since. We've always stayed in touch. And when he moved to Austin, I wished him well. And when I went and performed my hour-long comedy special, which hopefully is coming out very soon, early next year, called Talking to Myself, he was scheduled to perform, and he was going to perform with us. Cody Michael was there as well, and Carter Anderson. He was scheduled to perform, but got double booked, and there was a little miscommunication, so he wasn't able to. But he still came out, and you guys got to meet, and I'm very grateful for the relationship that we have now. We're very good friends. So.
Yeah, it's interesting how you treated the way that you had beaten him at a competition. You make it sound like you beat him in a fight or something, or like, I hope we can still be friends after this.
You want to go get a beer?
Yeah. But I have not. I've been on Carter's podcast, but I haven't got to see him yet.
He's adequate as hell, man. He's adequate as shit.
That'll make more sense. So basically, I don't know if I had met him at one of the McMinnville shows, or if I was important. I kind of feel like I met him before Austin, but
I think you might have saw him when he was. I had a show called the Beer Town Underground at a club in downtown Bend, and I don't know if you were there or not, but he came and he.
Okay.
Yeah. There's just
I don't know if I was, but basically, yeah, in Austin, you had me come open for you with Cody Michael, another great Bend comic. Cody Michael is proof proof how good Bend is at incubating comedy, because he was so good in no time at all.
Yeah, right. You know what's funny is that whole, was it 2018, 2019, I got to travel a lot of the country and see a lot of different areas, going to LA, going to Phoenix, going to Vegas, going to Milwaukee, Chicago, like all these different areas. Every single place I went, I said I would put my pick of Bend comedians, my 5 people. We could absolutely slaughter any city that I have been to for the slew of comedians that I've seen. And I'm not saying that to disrespect any other city, because I think they have incredible comedians in all of those cities that I performed at. And I'm not just saying that, I truly mean that. But the level of practice and the level of support that the people in our community in Central Oregon have for one another is unlike anywhere I've seen yet. And I've been in so many different places where comedy is relevant and comedy is a big motivating factor for entertainment. And I'm like, there's no place like this.
Oh, yeah. I have never been to a comedy open mic in any other town, like aside from like a few people, where I was like, wow, you could sell tickets to this. In Bend, it's like you could sell tickets to some of our open mics where everybody is just coming up and killing, and it's great. Yeah. But anyways, enough about Cody Michael and how great he is. Carter Anderson. But yeah, basically, I met him at the show in Austin, and then I think it was, he asked you to be on a podcast of his, and you said you couldn't make it, and to ask me, and then I was on it. And that's why I have this show. So that
awesome. I'm glad that worked out.
It was cool how that all happened. What's something in Carter that you see in his performance style that you see and you I don't know, maybe that you're jealous of, like something that he can do on stage that you can't?
It's not so much jealousy as more as I like you said earlier on, I don't ever see these things the same way as most people. Like when you and I go on stage, I know I always joke about it. Like when we're on stage, I'm going to kick your ass, Cole. I'm going to make that crowd so much. For me, that's just kind of like prepping you up, prepping me up, like getting us kind of revved up, things like that.
Right.
I'm trying to be better than I was my last performance. So when I see really, really talented comedians, it like fuels me to be better. Like I have to step my game up. I have to think more creatively. I have to think more uniquely. I think just the way he is able to view things from his perspective has changed my perspective slightly when I see him perform, because he thinks of things in a certain way that I don't. And it makes me go there. It makes me look at it from that perspective. And I see jokes from a different angle that I didn't before. So similar with you, your style of comedy challenges me to be better. I want to be around people that I know for a fact are better than me, more talented than me, more skilled than me, because I stand to learn from you. I stand to learn from Carter in so many different ways on that aspect. So I love surrounding myself with extremely, extremely skilled and talented and good-hearted people. If you don't have a good heart, then there's more likely than not, I won't be around you. So I don't think it's envy or jealousy. I think it's admiration, because I have to challenge myself, because he has just unconsciously challenged me. So
Right. And I really hope to see him live someday, because his podcasts are phenomenal and he's a great host on
you're
all
gonna
of them.
love it, man.
Yeah, so yeah, Carter Anderson will be on the next episode. It'll be me,
Nice.
Cody Parr, and Carter Anderson. And Cody Parr will just basically, yeah, we're gonna ask Carter these questions, and of course, I'll be trying to delve deeper into it, while Cody can be there to give a little more perspective on it from a third person's point of view. Yeah, so we hope to see you next time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Cody, for being on. Again, give us your
Appreciate it.
plugs, please.
Right now, I got the merchandise line for Beertown Comedy. You can go to shopbeertown.com. Sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, backpacks, things like that, with a comedy twist to them. Find me on Instagram or Twitter at Cody Parr 3 or at Beertown Comedy. Visit the website beertowncomedy.com. And yeah, that's what's going on. And actually, I was supposed to be filming tomorrow, but it got postponed. I'm actually one of the lead roles in a film that we're going to be doing called Space Beavers. It's a comedy, so we're going to be filming that in October now. So actually, it's like Dude, Where's My Car meets Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So
Oh, nice.
I'm super excited for that.
Nice. Well, you can check that out. This has been Cody Parr, male prostitute, world renowned for most effort per second and per dollar. This has been Journey and Wander, podcast about people's goals. So thank you for listening, and I hope to see you on the next one. And Cody Parr will be here as well with Carter Anderson. So thank you guys. Peace out. Have a good one.